Because also it'll count 2, you can only count 1, right? You got it. So I turn off all the LN298 pins, turn them all off so the motor's not running at all. And then I print the message, new car testing program. This is just, just for me to keep track on the serial monitor, just to make it easier. Get a small delay. Then we go into the loop. Now, as I say, this is a very basic sketch. I'm trying to keep it at the minimum of everything I wanted to do. This is just the basis. So we start off just by waiting for a command. We keep reading, which is with this, while, right here. So while, this is the command that looks for data that is arriving through the Airbus, I'd say, I don't know if you could call it that. And it will store only one character at a time. It will work with one character at a time. You can use strings to bring in messages, but for this case, for this purpose, this project, that is not important. It is important to be quicker, just simple commands: up, down, left, right, accelerate, decelerate. There's no message needed, so I keep it at a minimum to store only a character. As soon as you got it has a character, that means an order has been sent. Now, maybe it will be easier to say right now that the program that I am using on my cell phone, the Arduino app that I'm using on my cell phone, I'll put a picture on this video so you know what it is. It's very easy to use with, because you simply click the button on the definitions and you could put in the letter that you want, and it'll simply send that letter. So you can work with it. You can customize it up to your project. So I choose U for up, D for down, L for left, so on and so on. And so what do I do with the up command, which is the up arrow? It's like a Nintendo. It actually looks like a Nintendo controller or a PlayStation controller. You have the left side with up, down, left, and right, and on the right side you have 4 extra buttons, which is kind of like PlayStation. It has triangle, square, circle, and an X mark. I gave them letter names. I gave them. You'll see them later in front. And it also has select and start. So in total, I have 10 buttons on that screen right now. So I'll show you right now how I use it. So in case I clicked up or U, which is defined as U, I will raise, and it's to accelerate. Now, how do I do that? Accelerate or decelerate if the car is going backwards, and vice versa. How do I do that? It's actually pretty simple. As soon as I click in the order, the Arduino is going to check if the motor is running or not. So if the motor is already running, if the motor speed, if it's running, I'm sorry, I didn't say that right. The correct way to say this was, this first if statement is going to check if the motor is running frontwards or backwards. So it can be running frontwards. If it's running frontwards or stopped completely, motor back speed is 0, motor front speed is superior or equal to 0. It means it can be accelerated. So I will accelerate it with an increment of 50. And PWM reaches 255, so in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks you reach top speed. I have another button for full acceleration, but that comes below. And that is to accelerate, right? And I also check that if the motor speed has reached above 250, which is the maximum PWM that you can have, I order the motor's front speed to remain at 250. So we'll never reach higher than 250. Tops is 255, like you know. So after I changed the PWM, taken care of the PWM signal, this block, I write it to the motor, and I enable the motor if it's not already. So this if block, this small if block right here, will accelerate the motor or start it. But if the motor, if the car is already running backwards, or in other words, if the motor back speed, which is a variable for the PWM of the backwards rotation, if that is higher than 0, that means the car is moving. So I will not do an acceleration. I will rather decelerate, or take 50 out of the PWM of the motor speed. So I will decelerate. So it's actually pretty simple when you come to see it. If I click frontwards, I want the car to move frontwards or decelerate. And that is defined in these two if blocks. The first one, if the motor back speed is 0, we can accelerate. I didn't even need to have this motor front speed over here, but it doesn't matter. So if the back speed is 0, it means the car is ready to move frontwards. It can be accelerated, and we'll have an acceleration of a 50 increment. If the motor back speed is above 0, the car is moving backwards, the motor back speed PWM will receive a subtraction of 50 until it reaches 0, which will mean that you will want to accelerate. And the same happens vice versa on the backwards or the down button, which is, I defined it as small d. Now, those two other extra options that I showed you in the previous episode are right here. So if I press B, which is the square on the command, the car will come to a full stop. I write digital right to the forward and backward pins of the LN298, the H drive. I turn them off, which brings the car to a full stop. So this is a brake, full brake. The second case is for the triangle button, which brings the car to a full acceleration frontwards. As you can see here, I write the digital pin. I write the LN298 H bridge driver pin to the motor. I write the forward. I put it at high, which means it goes to 255 analog, or just reaches high, so it's turned on. And the backwards, I turn it off, obviously, which this puts a full acceleration, the full PWM, full power on the motor at once, and just like pushing a button. And I reset the motor speed and the back speed. Why? Because you can be driving the car. I do that on both. So you can be driving, you could already be accelerated. And if you would press one of these buttons, once you try to get out of the situation, your variables would be all screwed up because they were following what you had previously chosen. So as soon as you choose full acceleration, all your variables go back to 0, and you can just decelerate if you want to, or just brake and then start accelerating slowly. Everything will work fine. It does. I already tested it, and I'll show you a recording. So now we start to the turning situation, which is basically the same thing as the motor. All I do is, in case I turn right, so it's much simpler, I give an increment of 10 degrees to the servo to one side, to the right side, which is to the 180 side, and if to the left, it goes 10 to the other side. Now these uses 10 value increments, which means it can turn 3 times. It goes to 120 and 60 on the other side, from 90, it means 30 degrees. So I have 3 turning points. And also, just like I did with the acceleration and deceleration, I included another button, which is G right here, which automatically turns the steering wheel back to straight 90 degrees. So you could be turning, and full on to 60 degrees, and you don't want to push 3 times on the button back to get it to 90, because it takes time, a lot of time, to receive the command, get into position, receive it again, get into position. You can do it all at once just by pressing the X button on the command. It'll reach straight right away. Also, one last detail, I wrote in the select button on the command. I gave it the letter A because I wanted to give me the speed calculations, which I have down here in this formula. I'll get there in a minute. Now all I have to do is press the button and it will perform the speed calculation block, and it will print it on the serial monitor. I don't have it printing on the Bluetooth serial yet, but in a future episode I will be probably thinking about that. But for now, it's sufficient just to bring in the speed calculation. Just like I say, this is the basis sketch. After this, there's a lot you can move with this. There's a lot.